Hello and welcome to another episode of a Brothers Creed podcast where we talk about motivation, experiences, and exploring the world around us. We are the Thomas Brothers. I'm Jared.
And I'm Ethan. And today we're going to talk about a principle that I think everyone should attach to their own personal creed. And that is the principle of hard work.
Indeed.
We're going to talk about hard work, working hands versus idle hands.
That's right.
We're going to talk about the effectiveness of hard work physically, mentally, intellectually, maybe even spiritually. Right? There's lots of different aspects. Hard work doesn't always mean just going outside and pounding sand
digging holes all day
for 10 hours a day, So it can mean that, right? But we're going to get into it. We're going to dive in and see how we can apply it to our lives in different ways so that we can take advantage of the benefits of working hard. So
Indeed.
Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Spartans! What is your profession?
Any man who must say, I am the king, is no true king.
What I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills that make me a nightmare.
If I can change, then you can change. Everybody can change!
Let us all unite! Let us fight for a new world! A decent world!
All right. So when I think hard work, I think a lot of different things. Some of the synonyms of hard work that I looked up was someone who's diligent, dedicated, industrious, persevering, untiring, or tireless. All of those things sound exhausting.
You tireless? Yeah.
Right.
That ship has sailed for me with all these kids, man.
Yeah. But it is a principle that is that's sought by many, but it's not easily achievable. And I think hard work can mean different things for different people, right? So growing up, we were taught to, and we were expected to work hard. Our dad would, there was always something to do, whether it was around the house or outside or in the yard, and it was expected of us to participate in what was going on, and what needed to be done. Our dad growing up and even now was he was an advocate of, if you can do it yourself, then do it. Learn how to do it and do it, which I think has been beneficial in my life 100%.
Absolutely. Me too.
One thing that Dad would always say growing up is that, we did some things that were grueling at some points, and he would always say, I'll never ask you to do something that I would not be willing to do myself. And I can remember this one time we were at his office. He has an office building, and underneath the office building there was we had gotten tons of rain, and there was some flooding underneath the office building, and so there was like a crawl space that was maybe 2 feet tall, that had been flooded with a bunch of water. And so we went in there and we were needing to fix that water. So we we're digging trenches so the water would all seep down to a low spot, and then we had a sump pump that would pump that water and that moisture out to try to keep the area dry. And it was effective, right? What we did was very effective. We put sand and tarps and different things down there to keep the area dry, but doing it was it was a nasty, dirty, cramped, dark job.
Bug infested.
Bug infested that really any 15, 16-year-old is not going to want to do. Yeah. And so we were down there and we were crawling around elbows and toes, elbow deep in mud and sand and pushing all this stuff. It was a multi-day event, but we did it, and what we had done was effective. And I remember being done with that and kind of crawling out at the end of the day and of this crawl space thing, and I was completely covered in mud. My dad was completely covered in mud. My little sister at that point was there, and she was helping out too. And we were done, and we were just like, oh man. And actually, I think we went home that night, and Dad took us out to dinner, and I think we went and saw a movie or something like that. It's kind of like, work hard, play hard type thing. But
Yeah.
That's maybe an example of physical work. And one thing that it's funny, some people are like, oh man, I just can't sleep at night or whatever else. And I'm like, well, maybe you clearly haven't spent 14 hours in a day mucking out houses after Hurricane Katrina that are, full of all kinds of nastiness, and you're so tired that you can barely keep your eyes open at the end of the night that it's like you'd be lucky if you even make it to your bed to fall asleep.
Yeah, that was crazy.
But that's kind of the physical side of hard work. The mental side is another example that I have. Is there was this one girl at work that I had dealings with in different aspects of my job and categories and things. And so this girl, she was always engaged. It seemed like her mind just went a million miles an hour. She was always engaged in everything that was going on. She seemed to just soak up information like a sponge, and she had her hands just in everything that was going on. It just seemed like she could join any conversation and add value because of kind of this mental hard work and intellect that she had built and kind of, I guess, kind of presented over time. And, sitting at a desk all day is maybe not physically draining hard work, but that was just kind of an example that I thought of that anytime she had free time, granted we were in the office, anytime she had free time, she didn't pull out her phone and scroll, or she didn't do whatever. It was, what's the next process that I can help improve? Or how can I implement something within my own stewardship and duties to make it quicker, make it easier, and everything else. And that was always something that was years ago,
Mm-hmm.
but that was kind of something that I always looked at and said, that is an example of hard work without physical exertion.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that mental hard work. So there's just a couple examples that I thought of when I first started thinking of hard work.
Yeah. I think that, I think sometimes it's easier to do physical hard work than it is to do sustained mental hard work. In some of the stuff that I do, I'm writing lines and lines of code, and I'm trying to, query a certain population or find a certain problem, and I'm on like my 200th line of code and trying to figure out how to join different tables, and it's like building this house of cards in my brain. I'm trying to remember all this stuff, and then I got people messaging me, got meetings I have to go to, and I have to rebuild this house of cards in my mind to, okay, like I already looked at this, I already looked at that. And so sometimes it can be very difficult to maintain that level of flow with just mentally. And I mean, it would be sometimes easier just to keep digging a shovel and mindlessly doing something,
Yeah, you're like, I just want to go like chop down a tree right now and not think about anything.
Yeah. So sometimes that mental load can be just so much. But I know it's differently for every person. I once had a professor that worked on the trading floor and at Wachovia, and he essentially, when he was working when they started doing in like the 90s, when they started doing these maybe late 90s, these mortgage-backed securities, they would bundle them together, and then they would maintain the portfolio, and then they would sell them off in these different tranches. And his job was to basically hedge against this portfolio so they didn't lose its value. And so he said that one time one of his colleagues was like, "Hey, can I come down to the trading floor and watch you for a day?" He's like, "Yeah, sure, come on down." And he said that like he's on like 3 different phones at the same time. Like, "Oh, trade, I'll sell you this one, 25 and a quarter. Okay, I'll sell you this one, 26 and a quarter." And he's like on hold with like 4 different people at the same time. And the guy was like, "I don't know how you do that, but that is insanity." And he's like, "Yeah, the trading floor is intense." And so sometimes I think, what my mental hardness is like doing code and stuff, it can be mentally difficult. Imagine someone who's on the, like in the pit doing the options exchange, in Chicago. Yeah. I don't think they have that anymore, but that's such an intense environment that, you'd be exhausted just after doing that, or, on these high pressure jobs. But one of the things that that I think about when I think about hard work is, and a saying that I've always liked was that when talent doesn't hustle, hustle beats talent. And I think that's so true. When I think about that, I think about Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is arguably the best basketball player of all time. And when he was in high school, he actually didn't make his varsity basketball team. And so he wasn't good enough to make the team. And so he actually, he said, whenever I was working out and got tired and fatigued, I ought to stop. I'd close my eyes and I'd see that list in the locker room without my name on it. That usually got me going again. That's what he said. By the end of his high school career, he was named the McDonald's All-American, and he never stopped practicing. His career was just skyrocketed from there. He was such a great athlete. He would practice during the off season. He would do hundreds of jump shots each day, even in the off season. Phil Jackson, who coached him for many years, said Jordan became so great not because of his inherent skills, and he said, to be fair, they helped, but because he understood how hard he needed to work to succeed. And then there's a documentary show, I think on Netflix, called The Last Dance. It's very good. It talks about how initially Jordan was so focused on himself and being the best, and he was coming up and getting these super high baskets in these number of scores in these games. He was running up the scoreboard, but then his team was kind of being left behind, and then that's why. And then he started learning. He's like, I got to teach these other guys to bring them along, and that's where you get these, other guys that really came along with him, like Scottie Pippen and the others that they learned together, and they became an amazing all-star team. And so one other thing that he said about failures that I loved, he said, I've missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I've lost almost 300 games. 26 times I've been trusted to take the game-winning shot and missed. I failed over and over and over again in my life, and that is why I succeed. Pushing through failures is part of working hard. Not being discouraged, but rather taking failures in stride to get to that next level. And so working hard doesn't necessarily always mean just pushing and grinding and grinding and grinding. Sometimes there's setbacks, and it's just standing up from those and keep trying and persisting. I think that two attributes that go right along with hard work, or that maybe are subsets under hard work, are patience and perseverance. If you can have those, and just keep driving, then you will reap the benefit of what you have sown. You will the parable of the sower, right? You will reap what you sow, and so that's basically what hard work is, right?
Yeah, for sure. One thing that I looked into is what is it really that sets a hard worker apart? What are some actions or some attributes that set people apart, set hard workers apart? And there's a couple here that I thought was pretty interesting, and really a lot of them made sense, right? That they're pretty basic, but hard worker, they They put a great deal of effort into their work, either physically, mentally, or emotionally. We've kind of talked about that. They put in extra long hours. I'm sure, Michael Jordan sitting there, and I think he had a thing that he had to make 100 free throws every day or something like that, and he couldn't go to bed at night until he made them. And so, sometimes it took a long time. They work at a high intensity, completing a large volume of work in a reduced time frame. They're diligent and consistent and maintain a high standard at all times. They plan and organize their work so that they can be as productive as possible. They take initiative, identifying opportunities, and independently generating productive work. No, they're not always told what to do. They're highly focused and have the ability to maintain concentration. I think that's a big one, especially with all the distractions that we have today. They can maintain that focus. And the last one is they keep going and they don't give up. One thing that in my journey to become a harder worker, I've been doing a lot of research lately in the past couple of weeks about focus and distractions. And I listened to a book the other day talking I think it was called Focus. And the book goes through and it gave a bunch of different ways of helping you to focus. And one of those main ways was to eliminate distractions. And one of the biggest things was look at your phone, right? How many apps on your phone do you have like push notifications activated? Okay, every time somebody likes a picture on Facebook, is it going to ding on my phone that says, oh, so-and-so liked your thing? Or, anytime the stock market does something, is my phone going to buzz? Or anytime something is just like, we live in a world where your phone will tell you everything that's going on. And it's just going to push those notifications and it's going to yell at you. It's going to scream at you. It's going to buzz. It's going to whatever. And so I actually don't like that. But I went through and I turned off almost all of my push notifications from my apps because I don't want to know that I have a Facebook message right now. I'll check that at night or when I get home or when I'm done with work. Because what happens if it pops up and I say, oh, Jared sent me a Facebook message. What am I going to do?
Read it.
I'm going to either read it or I'm going to say, well, I'll read it later. And then I'll put it back down. Yeah. And then now I just lost focus on what I was distracted from what I was doing. Now I have to refocus. Exactly. And so that's something that I've really done. Text messages are a little bit different because, someone needs to get a hold of you during the day or whatever else, my wife, then I'll keep my text messages on, right? But another big thing to me is emails. I mean, how many emails do you get in a day to your personal emails?
A lot.
I mean, 98% of them are just complete trash.
Yeah.
And it's like
for me recently, I got with that Ring doorbell. You said you set yours up yet? Oh, you haven't gotten yours yet.
Yeah, we got it.
And man, if every single package that comes to the door, I'm on my watch and I can see beep and I can see who's at the door. I kind of tell myself, oh well, situational awareness, I guess. But part of me is like, this is a distraction because if the kids.
But is it like a micro distraction that you get? How many of those a day?
Yeah, exactly.
And how much time did it take you to refocus and everything? So that's just something that I'm kind of mentally trying to do to help me avoid those distractions to become a harder, more efficient worker.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm same. Some of the things that I came up with is like working harder. Some of the things I've been trying to work on is work smarter. Not necessarily. I mean, you have to work hard, but sometimes work smarter, not harder. I remember just a very simple example when I was doing construction. The guy was like, "Hey, go over there and get all those cement bags." And it was like 10 cement bags. And like the first time I went over and like put one on my shoulder, and I was like, "Man, this is freaking killing my back." And like I had to walk almost a block to bring the cement bag over. I'm just going to get a wheelbarrow and put like 5 of these in there at one time. It's like, this is working harder, not smarter, or smarter, not harder, sometimes I think about that, especially when I'm coding. It's like, well, am I doing the right thing, or should I be automating some of this, or could I be doing? is doing this manually. I'm always looking for ways to automate stuff instead of doing things manually. So that is a critical thing. A couple other ones here. I said, use the best tool for the job. If you're digging with a shovel, sometimes it can take a lot longer than if you just dig with a backhoe or a skid steer or something like that. So use the right tool for the job, and that's often going to prevent you from having issues, and it's going to make you work harder and more efficiently. Delegate to others. I think that's part of learning to work hard too. If you can delegate your work, you're kind of multiplying yourself. You're multiplying your own capabilities by delegating work. And then the aggregate of their work will help you get more done. Whether that's in your family, like, hey, let's clean the house up, or you're at work, and you're like, hey, can we all work together to do this? So lots of different ways to employ that. Break big goals up into smaller chunks. We've talked about goal setting many times. That will help you have bite-sized items to accomplish, and then when you have a clear direction of where you're going, that way we enable you to work harder. I love to-do lists because I love crossing them off. It's like therapeutic to me. And so I'll just go through the to-do list and I'll say, I got to do this, and this. And then I break it up into such small chunks where during one day I can cross off, half the list or the whole list because there's just such small things. One thing I like is listen to motivational music. I listen to a lot of music because I'm just sitting at my desk almost all day, every day, at least during the work day. And then in the gym, I'm listening to music as well. Music can change your mood drastically. If I'm listening to, Jimmy Buffett, I'm like, man, I wish I was on the beach right now. And I'm going to be lazy. I'm going to be wanting to check my phone. I'm going to be wanting to do stuff. I've found that whenever I listen to, I love Mumford & Sons, just because the music really gets going. It's kind of this folk music. It really moves and it kind of gets me going. And I just listen to it in the background. Or I love like heavy metal type. I don't listen to the lyrics or anything. I just like, it just is like motivating music. If I'm listening to something that's slow, then I'm just going to slow down at work too. So music is a powerful way to affect your emotions and help you move the needle and continue to work harder. And then, like you said, reduce distractions was something that I had written down as well.
Yeah, those are all great ideas. And I completely agree with kind of the music one. I enjoy that one. Sometimes silence is good, but sometimes music just kind of, it almost helps you get into like this trance, right? Mm-hmm. That it just helps you kind of grind through. But yeah, I had kind of put together how to work hard. There's like 5 steps to working hard that I had found. And the first step is the drive. So this is the motivation, the inspiration, the entire reason why you work hard. This is the engine that pushes all of your efforts forward. So that's the drive. Next is the plan. The plan, if the drive was the heart of your hard work, then the plan is the skeleton of your hard work. This maps out the course, the action, helps you plot your progress and keep track of what you're doing.
Those are those bite-sized pieces.
Yeah. If you want to, clear a forest and you just go in there and just start chopping trees willy-nilly and chop halfway through this tree and then halfway through that tree and then halfway through that tree and then, all the way through this tree or whatever else, then you just have a million different things going on at once, plan. So the drive, the plan. The next one is the grind. The grind is the point when working hard stops being fun and exciting and starts becoming tedious, stressful, and perhaps even discouraging. So that's where like the grind comes in. That's where grit comes in. That's where like fun the
goes to die.
The fun wears off, right? It's like you go to work and you're like, digging holes. I love digging holes. But then it's like you get 3 feet deep and you're like, this ground is like hard as a rock, and it's 102 degrees outside, and it's whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
do you have the grit? The grind is pushing through. This is no longer fun.
Yeah.
And so that's really what separates the winners from the quitters, is that grind. So the drive, the plan, the grind. Next is the sacrifice. This is really kind of the I guess the crux of hard work. It's the one thing that makes everything it makes the work truly hard, right? If it wasn't a sacrifice, like, and that could be physical sacrifices, it's making you tired. It could be hot outside, or it could be taking your time, or it could be burning your eyeballs out staring at 300 lines of code for 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
That's kind of the sacrifice that really is what truly makes it hard. And one thing that I like it that it says enduring the strain is the sacrifice.
Yep.
It's enduring the strain. I like that.
Yeah.
So last one is the payoff. So this is the golden ticket, the brass ring at the end of the race. It's in order for the hard work to be worthwhile,
Mm-hmm.
there has to be a payoff. And that was the accomplishing a goal at the end, or a milestone. It's kind of like what you said, sometimes chopping up huge goals into smaller goals.
Mm-hmm.
And once you receive that payoff, then you know what? It kind of makes that hard work worth it.
Yeah.
And that made me think of, I think we talked about this in a previous episode, but maybe not. But I know that like in some POW camps, or some like Russian prisons and stuff like that, they use hard work as a demoralization tactic
Mm-hmm.
to give prisoners
useless work.
Yeah, to give prisoners very strenuous, hard labor jobs that accomplish absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
So there is zero payoff. It kind of takes that whole payoff aspect out of hard work and makes it not worth it. Example of that, here's this massive pile of 100-pound sandbags. I need you to pick this pile up and move it over to the other side of the courtyard.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then you do it. And then what do they say?
Take it back.
All right, now move it back.
Yeah.
Right. There's zero purpose to it.
Pointless work.
Yeah. It reminds me of what was that Robert Redford movie, The Last Castle?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The Last Castle, where he's
they
like
build
this,
the wall in the middle. Yeah.
Well, he's this general.
4-star general. Yeah.
4-star general that got caught up in some kind of, I don't really think he did anything bad, but he
disobeyed
an
order. Didn't send his guys in harm's way.
So he got sent to a military prison and wait to get court-martialed, where the warden of this prison was kind of like he was initially a big fan of the generals and wanted to impress him, but the general kind of was like, dude, you're a screwball and you're a terrible person.
Yeah.
And so the warden basically changed his tactic to say, I'm going to make this guy's life as hard as possible.
Yeah.
And one of the things that they made him do was there was a big pile of bricks and rubble, and they made him pick up every brick by himself while everybody watched and move it to one side of the courtyard and then to the other side. And he did it.
Yeah.
But
That's
yeah, if there's no payoff, then it can break a person whenever you have just working hard to work. And I think there's a difference between.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say there's a different. Hard work does not equal success.
Oftentimes, yeah.
Because
you could be the best shovel, you could be the best hole digger there ever was, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be making buku bucks or whatever.
Yeah, and so I mean, it definitely has an effect on potential success. But you can pull as hard. You could tie a rope to a tree, and you can pull as hard as you want, and that's going to be hard work. But you're never going to pull the tree over, depending on the size of the tree, right?
Yeah.
So work harder, smarter, not harder.
One thing I think I've shared this in past episode, but Warren Buffett had graduated. When he graduated school, one of his fellow colleagues, one of his graduate mates, went off into the another line of business. I think he was a doctor or something like that, or something else. And then Warren Buffett went into the finance industry, and he said, this many years later, he's made so much more money, not necessarily because he worked harder, but because he was in a little bit faster because the boat he was in a different boat, and they was able to go a little bit faster. So they were both doing hard work, but on the finance side of things, the boat had more potential to make that hard work to be so much more impactful. I think when I think about one thing, I have a question for you. So you talked about, what's your why and what's your motivation and what's that thing that reward at the end. I feel sometimes like at work, when you're on a salary, it's like, well, what's my why? My why is to keep my job and not get fired.
I was just about to say that.
And
My
it's like,
why is to.
Okay, so what's your reward at the end? Well, to get the same paycheck that I've been receiving for the past X many months, and to not get fired. And so it's like, I think that sometimes in a non-commissioned environment, that really kills. You're only, in many ways, people are only working just enough so that they're not fired.
Yeah. Well, and I can attest to having worked in a fully commissioned situation, that it could kind of be demoralizing as well, because everything is tied to the amount of work you do. And a lot of times too, I was out knocking doors, selling security systems, in my college days. And it's like, it's a numbers game. The more doors you knock on, the more yeses you'll get. Well, sometimes it's different too. It's all about your pitch or how you're talking or the product you're selling or whatever else. And so there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah. I had a story here that was kind of an aspect of working hard. So Ian Fleming, who is the author and creator of the iconic James Bond character, he had a vivid imagination, and he had the ability to draw from his years of experience serving as an officer in the British Naval Intelligence. But he knew writing a 300-page book would require hard work. Imagination and experience wouldn't be enough. So Fleming needed a process that would allow him to make his stories come to life on the page. He created a simple one, dedicated 3 hours to writing in the morning and 1 hour in the evening. That's it. During those hours, he wrote whatever came to his mind, whether it flowed well or not. While he was writing, he never went back to check his words or fix an error or validate a fact. There was time for that later. He just focused on his process, which was writing for hours and putting away his work at the end of it. The simple process yielded him 2,000 words a day, and in 6 weeks, the new James Bond novel was born. So I like this one because it's about setting milestones or commitments on a daily basis. Like, I'm going to do this today. I'm going to accomplish this much today. And then working towards those small victories so that in the end, you have a large victory. So I love that aspect of working hard. Sometimes it's using time blocking, which is essentially kind of what he was doing here, is using a block of time where I'm just going to be fully focused for this time, and then I'm going to relax and not wear out my brain. So I liked that aspect of hard work. Sometimes in that, you talked about that one step, the grind, and then the sacrifice. Sometimes when you're in the grind and it's feeling uncomfortable, sometimes just stepping away for 10 minutes to take a walk or just get a drink or a snack, coming back to it with fresh eyes, that can make all the difference. So, but sometimes I'm tempted to be like, oh, I've got to grind. I've got to get this. I've got to sit here and find out where this 10 cent difference is coming from in this reconciliation. I've been there before, but you just got to step away sometimes and then come back and just get some different perspective. So yeah, for sure. I had a couple quotes about hard work that I liked. One is from Teddy Roosevelt, and this is
standard quote, but is nothing worth having comes easy.
Mhm.
I just thought it was an interesting one. And then there's another quote that, well, I'll ask you this question. Do you know the difference between try and triumph?
The umph.
A little bit of And so I always like that quote. The difference between try and triumph is just a little umph.
That's nice.
So
This is like something a football coach a high school football coach would say.
yeah. So that's and then kind of the opposite of hard work is what? Laziness, or we kind of
Idleness.
talked about idleness, idle hands.
Idle hands are the devil's play shop, or the
Yeah,
devil's.
yeah. The devil finds work for idle hands. That's what they always say. What did our parents always told us? Nothing good happens after midnight, right? So that's kind of goes along with that, right? So it's said to idleness, basically, in this whole, kind of the devil finds work for idle hands, says that shows that believes that people who have nothing to do will likely get in trouble, or they'll commit some sort of crime, or
Yeah.
just get into mischief, or whatever it may be.
Also, I think that just like being a man of action is so powerful in this world. We need more men of action that are going to do something. And there's so many distractions that bucket people into situations where their hands are idle and they're doing nothing. I mean, like, well, maybe not physically idle, but maybe they're playing video games all day. They're just checking out of reality. And then they're playing video games all day, or they're addicted to something, or they're just drinking all day, or they're on their phones all day long. And it's distracting them and taking them off course so that they can't be hardworking because they're just spinning their wheels and being idle.
Yeah. I mean, for me personally, all right, I've had days where, well, for a high level perspective, I feel so much better at the end of a day that I got stuff done versus a day that was just, maybe I did work, but it seems wasted because you didn't really get anything done.
Yeah.
You get to the end of the day and you were just like, man, what was today for? It was almost like I will never get this day back, and I could have done so much more, but I didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
And so for me, there's no better feeling than getting in bed at night, you're tired, and you say, man, I got a lot done today.
No better feeling?
Well,
close second. Yeah, I totally agree with you. A feeling fulfilled with a good day's work, that is absolutely, well, I would say a good day's work, a balance of fun and also work. I mean, that's my ideal, is to, work hard and then have some fun, and on the same day, to have that balance and to feel accomplished is very rewarding.
yeah. Well, and I think too, it's not always like, oh, I worked today, but it was, on a, we had that episode about kind of what we've been doing, and one of the things was me and my triathlon.
Yeah.
I remember that day I woke up early, I had that triathlon in the morning, and then I went right from the triathlon and I came home and picked up my son, and then we went and I coached his soccer game, and then right after that we went home, and I think we went and did something else, and it was just like, it was a busy day, but we got a lot done. It was just, it was hard work in the sense of, like, there was accomplishment that was being done.
Yeah.
And it was fun. I enjoyed it all.
Yeah.
But so hopefully this is something that you can apply, we can apply to our own personal creeds of the principle of hard work, and whatever it means to you, right? Find out your reason, your why, and your drive, your plan, and then remember, when you're in the grind of things, remember that sacrifice will potentially have a payoff.
That's exactly right. Well, this has been a good reminder of what it takes to work hard, and also give some great tips on how to continue to work hard. So thank you for that. For all those listening, we appreciate you guys listening. We are coming up on our 100th episode soon here. So if you have any ideas what we should do for our 100th episode, let us know. we're still mulling around some ideas. Let us know on social media. We're on Instagram, TikTok. Just reach out to us and let us know what you think we should do. So we'd love to hear it. And thank you for listening today, and let's build that creed together.
All right, let's do it.